You're going to sit there? Okay.
Done.
Broadcasting across the state of Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and around the world on the Civic Media app. This is the Dom Salvia Show. And now, here's your host, Dom Salvia.
And welcome to the Dom Salvia Show. Happy days to us all. Thank you for tuning in and listening, hanging out with us. 855-752-4842. Got Just PS on the board. And it's overtime with our pal, Maggie Dawn from the Maggie Dawn Show, 2 to 4 p.m. We're going to get with her in just a minute. But I got to let you folks know it's that time of year. And here at Civic Media, we're giving stuff away. That's right. It's the Text to Win contest. It's really simple. Just listen to Civic Media on the app and text the keyword during various hours, specifically 7 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4. This is the 4 o'clock hour. This is your opportunity to win a prize for our grown-up gift list. Now, each of these hours, we're giving away either $100 in cash or an overnight getaway to the Chula Vista Resort in the Dells. And each hourly entry qualifies you for our grand prizes, from espresso machines to robot vacuums. We've got 8 grand prizes from a grown-up gift list. So, real simple, folks. Download the Civic Media app. Find your favorite radio station. That's the one you're probably listening to right now. Use the text button at the bottom of the screen to text the keyword for your chance to win this statewide contest. And what is the keyword? What is the keyword? It's Holly. Holly. The keyword is Holly. Text Holly for your chance to win. I got some friends named Holly. This isn't that. It's Holly. Text Holly. And we'll repeat this throughout the hour. Goes between 4 and 5 Central Time here. So text Holly on the Civic Media app. Overtime with Maggie Dawn. The Maggie Dawn Show, she airs 2 to 4 p.m. right here Monday through Friday at the Civic Media Radio Network. Maggie, thank you. Welcome.
Good to be here with both you and Just PS.
It is fantastic to have you, and I love doing a little overtime with you. We get to spend a little time together, and occasionally we blow each other's minds. You can let me know, get some sound from yesterday. Well, I got one for you today, and this is going to strike home. Bear with me just a moment as we get through the reporting. Laura Schulte from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul's office filed 10, count them, 10 additional felony charges Tuesday against 2 attorneys and an aide who worked for then President Trump over their roles in a plan to submit paperwork falsely claiming that Trump won Wisconsin in 2020. Now, the additional charges filed in Dane County Circuit Court against Kenneth Cheesebro, I know it's not how you pronounce it, but we don't care, a Wisconsin native and lead architect of the 2020 elector scheme. Former Dane County Judge Jim Trupis, I think you know that guy, Maggie. He represented Trump in Wisconsin during the 2020 election. And Mike Roman, former Trump aide who allegedly delivered Wisconsin's slate of false electoral paperwork to a Pennsylvania congressman staffer in order to get them to Vice President Mike Pence on January 6th of 2021. Now, the additional charges, bear with me, I just lost it for a moment. The additional charges alleged forgery to defraud, and get this, the Republican electors who cast their ballots for Trump in 2020, even though Joe Biden won the state. Now, the new charges join the original single charge of felony forgery filed earlier this year. Cheesebro, Trupis, and Roman are scheduled to appear in court in Madison on Thursday. Now, Trupis appeared on conservative talk show host Vicki McKenna's show on Tuesday afternoon, making some of his first public comments in months. Let's hear what Jim had to say, Maggie.
Oh, boy.
There isn't a single morning or a single night since early of 2021 that I have not worried about this case, that I have not thought about it. They're coming after me and every member of my family. They're coming after my law license. They're coming after my bankers. Now, a defense for the civil case cost well more than $500,000, Trupis said, adding he had to get a lawyer from Kansas City. Quote, if you don't think they were trying to bankrupt me, you don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, kind of sucks, Jim, when the long arm of the law comes for you because you broke the law.
Well,
I mean,
Isn't that how it's supposed to work, Maggie?
Last time I checked, I mean, this complaint from Mr. Trupus is rings a little hollow to me. Like, I'm the victim. What? And I would venture to guess that Mr. Trupus has no empathy for regular people that are criminal defendants for doing things that are less of a threat to our democracy than what he did, and don't have any money at all to pay for a lawyer. It's just, this is so much like the guy that got interviewed on 60 Minutes. Oh, woe is me. I just don't buy it. Like, you did the crime. This is the process. Call up Trump if you need your legal bills covered. I'm sure he'll get his checkbook right out.
A little bit more from the reporter, Maggie. Trupus encouraged people to show up to the Dane County Courthouse on Thursday morning. Yeah, bring them all down. Come down. We'll be wild. He said the fellow judges he served with are good judges and honest people who are put in a very difficult political problem. Really? It's not laughable to me because I can go to jail for 6 years, and I don't doubt they would love to do that to make me that poster child. Yeah, 11 charges now. Each of the charges can carries the same maximum penalty of 6 years in prison, including a $10,000 fine. A little bit of the meat here, Maggie. According to the complaint, this is interesting to me, most of the electors said they did not consent to have their signatures presented as if Trump won the state without a court ruling saying so. The complaint also describes how Cheesebro, Trupus, and Roman allegedly created a fake document that said Trump won Wisconsin's 10 electoral college votes and then attempted to deliver it to then Vice President Mike Pence for certification.
Through Ron Johnson's staff.
Through Ron Johnson's staff. Also facing charges Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, and Georgia. So woe is me, but he's not only he was fraudulent to the fake electors. I mean, wow, really trying to get something.
Let's be sure people understand why you just said what you said, Dom, and this is really important. I may, in fact, have some understanding for non-lawyer electors that were on the fake elector slate, that were not intimately involved with this, that relied on the representations made by the lawyers, meaning Jim Trupus, who's a former judge, and the Cheese Man. These are lawyers. I can see a non-lawyer person who was not familiar with election processes being told, we have these cases going, they haven't been decided yet. Now, that's a bit of baloney right there.
Right.
But I can see that as a defense. That is absolute, utter, total garbage when it comes to Jim Trupus, because he was the campaign's lawyer in the state of Wisconsin. He absolutely knew what was happening with those cases. He absolutely knew that there was risk involved with creating a document that looks to be real and official when you have lost the cases and acting like Donald Trump won the state of Wisconsin. He, more than anyone else in this state, would understand that. Perhaps it's like Jim Trupus, number one, Bob Spindell, number two, and then the Cheese Man. But like, he literally litigated these cases. I know, because I defended Milwaukee County in them,
Right.
and which we won all of them. But this is why it's just, what are you complaining about, Jim? You may have lied to these other Republicans. They shouldn't have signed it either. I think all of the conduct is highly suspicious, absent some sort of smoking gun document that said, here's Jim Trupus telling us that this is not going to be submitted. But Jim, he doesn't have any legs to stand on.
And overtime with Maggie Dawn, 855-752-4842. And I thought it was interesting, the reporting. It said most of the electors did not allow or approve for that. Also, in WisconsinWatch.org, watching the news here on this very topic, Trupus argued in his brief here recently, this is reporting from yesterday, his defense, Maggie, the practice of having both sets of electors meet and vote during an ongoing legal challenge or recount is over a century old. He points to the 1876 presidential election, where 3 states sent competing sets of electors to Washington, and the 1960 race when Hawaii featured competing electors due to an ongoing recount that eventually flipped 3 electoral votes from Nixon to Kennedy. Now, historians have identified key differences in those cases, and in 2020, Trubus goes on to say, having the Republican electors meet and cast their ballot was not criminal or even untoward, and the ballot was not a forgery. This is
Then why'd you meet in
pleading.
secret? Why weren't you telling everyone in the media that you were doing it when you were doing it? Why is Ron Johnson's story about this changed 15 times? If this was so above board, where was all the transparency then? It was hidden. They met in secret in the basement of the Capitol. And by the way, did you notice the part about the 1961 that they were in a freaking recount? There was an the recount was done in Wisconsin. The lawsuits were done by the time this fake elector set was signed and transmitted to Ron Johnson's staff to try to get it to the vice president. We were in freaking January, y'all. Also, the other case from like the 1800s, little bit different back then. Maybe not the interwebs and the cell of the phones and, the means of communication and the tabulation machines. I mean, give me a freaking break.
A separate motion argues the criminal complaint omits information that pokes holes at the DOJ's allegations. Trupus's attorney, Maggie, points to a 2022 memo from the DOJ solicited by the Wisconsin Elections Commission as it investigated a complaint filed against the Trump electors. That complaint argued the Trump electors met in a concerted effort to ensure they would be mistaken as a result of their deliberate forgery and fraud and for Wisconsin's legitimate presidential electors. But DOJ concluded in its memo that the record does not support this allegation and that the Trump electors, even before the December 14th meeting, publicly stated, including in court pleadings, that they were meeting to preserve legal options while litigation was pending. Now, Trupus' legal claims that conclusion, omitted from the criminal complaint, shows it was proper and necessary for the alternate electors to meet and vote on December 14th. And finally, another motion, Trupus argues election-related prosecutions can unfold only if the Elections Commission determines probable cause and refers the case to another district attorney, not the attorney general. 45 seconds, Miggy, your thought on that.
Here's the thing. There's no dispute over the conduct, no material dispute. So isn't the question, did the conduct violate these state laws? If yes, insert penalty here, right? Like, that's the way this works. Like, just because you didn't actually know it was illegal doesn't mean you get off scot-free. Jim Trupus, throw the book at him. Thanks so much, Dom. Thanks, Just BS. Great to see y'all.
Thank you, Maggie Dunn. Overtime with Maggie Dunn. Check her show out 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Fridays on the Civic Media Radio Network. Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. It is a phone line. It is a text line. We will get to all of your comments here shortly. Jess will clear you calls and get you on here with us. The news that, and thank you, Maggie Dawn, Overtime with Maggie Dawn. Make sure you check her out 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday here on the Civic Media Radio Network, talking about this reported case here in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Josh Call, the AG here in Wisconsin, has leveled 10 additional charges against the 3 no-do-gooders here. We're talking about Kenneth Cheesebro. We're talking about Jim Trupis, a former Dane County judge, and Mike Roman. That was Trump's guy in town here. 10 additional charges, meaning there are now 11 charges total, and I believe it said what? Let's see. Each of the charges, 11 charges levied, carries maximum penalty of 6 years in prison in addition to $10,000 fine. Now, that's a lot.
That's
right?
a lot.
That could be a lot. And Maggie was, of course, across the table from Trupis when she was defending the state of Wisconsin, specifically Milwaukee County, in these cases. And let's not forget what they were trying to do. I mean, let's accentuate the fact. They're trying to overthrow the election. You see, folks, Trump lost in 2020. I know he doesn't like to say that, and a lot of the sycophants around him have waffled on whether that is in fact the case. Yeah, it happened. Trump lost. We know that because Biden lost this election, and now he's no longer going to be the president. And Trump lost the last time. So what did they try to do? Well, they tried to overthrow and throw out your vote. My vote. I'm not going to talk about you. I don't know how you voted. I know how I voted. And I don't take it too kindly when these right-wing mega nut jobs try to concoct a scheme to work around the fact that your guy lost the election. Period. Full stop. Oh, they did it back in the 1800s. Oh, they did. No. Okay, they did some things, but they were different circumstances.
Imagine that.
They were different cases. They wanted to overturn the election. That is what this is about. When Donald Trump's not going to face any charges for his January 6th insurrection, but this was all part of the plan. Lots of plans, right? Lots of conspiracy, a lot of spokes in the wheel to get the plan through. Well, I mean, it's unfortunate that perhaps this might be some of the only few people who pay the price for that. Because, of course, this was presumably, I would say, coming from the top. They sold it to the big guy, and they're pushing it. And they had their opportunity. They had over 60 court cases. They had over 60. And, yes, some maybe were thrown out for standing. That is a thing. But they did get some court cases, and they lost. And they lost, and even some of those that got thrown out, my understanding, were appointed by Trump.
Indeed.
So you can't go to the courts with nothing in your pocket and say, give me redress, and they're going to say, for what? You got lost an election. So they had that whole legal angle going. And then they had this other angle. Well, we'll throw it back to the states, let the legislature decide. Oh, that's a great idea. Hey, who won? So in that process, in that endeavor, former Dane County judge engaged in fraud. And the fraud was in order to overthrow the election, to throw away my vote. And he should pay a price for that. And I'm sorry. Oh, it's not laughable to me. I can go to jail for 6 years. I have no doubt they'd love to do that. Make me a poster child. Yes. You try to throw out my vote? You should absolutely be a poster child. That'd be the best of it. Head on a spike? I don't think that we can do that anymore, but they used to do things like little outdated. But some consequences for it? Yeah.
Seems like a novel idea these days. I mean, it's like it's happening.
It seems so old school now. Consequences. 855-752-4842. Tyler Billy, he chimes up. Yeah, poster child? It's called deterrence. Thank you, brother. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So I don't want to lose sight. And I know we kind of, try to joke around, try to have fun, but these are serious charges. Because it's not just the fraud. People do all sorts of kinds of fraud. What was a fraud endeavoring to do? To wreck our democracy. To throw out Dominic's vote. If you don't care about anything else, care about my vote. Because I care about mine. And Jess too.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah.
Our vote.
Yeah.
Our collective vote. I want our votes to be counted.
They should be.
And I want them to be applied. And if our person loses, they lose. If our person wins, they win. And if they lose, we go back and try to do it again. If they win, we hold them accountable to their campaign promises. This is how we do it. You don't engage in and let's just call it, even on the legal side of it, a bunch of bunk and BS, as evidenced by they lost over 60 cases. And the one case, I believe it was in Pennsylvania, that they did actually win, had nothing to do with the actual vote count, had some sort of process or dates or whatever the case was. It didn't have an effect on the election. So you lost. And this whole big lie, and this is the consequence, the culmination of the conspiracy of the big lie, is Troopus coming to Wisconsin and Cheesebro in the room with the fake electors. Hell, he got a video, if I recall correctly, of them doing the crime, quote unquote. And the additional charges, mind you, was for Troopus because he apparently, if you believe Troopus and these other guys, Roman and Cheesebro, lied to the 10 Republicans, and most of them apparently, according to the reporting, did not want their signatures to be affixed unless it was a court ruling that was the case. So he engaged in fraud on his own side. His own side. So I'd like to see you defend that. Are you gonna this thing goes to trial, you're gonna call up Andrew Hitt, former head of the Republican Party here in the state of Wisconsin. You're gonna testify. He's an attorney himself, man. He went out and got in front of this thing back in the day, right? He did like a 60 Minutes interview. Oh, we didn't know anything about it. Well, if you believe that, and it's kind of hard to, but if you take him at his word, and then you see now the Attorney General here in the state of Wisconsin, Josh Kaul, following that up with an additional 10 charges. Quote, according to the complaint, most of the electors said they did not consent to having their signatures presented as if Trump had won the state without a court ruling saying so. And I do not consent for my vote to be thrown out by a bunch of crooked attorneys and political types who absolutely know better. And if you're going to play stupid games, you should win stupid prizes. Unlike our prize. Right here on the giveaway. Here we got a big giveaway. It's the grown-up gift list. Text to win. Go download the Civic Media app. Find our station. This is one you're listening to right now. Use the text button at the bottom of the screen and send the keyword Holly. Text Holly. Let's be Holly. Join us, 855-752-4842. We'll be right back. to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75 Civic phone line, text line. We're going to get to you shortly. Again, we are revisiting the headline here because I just love this. Josh Call has added 10 more charges against Troopus Cheese Bro and Mike Roman here in the state of Wisconsin. The additional charges allege forgery to defraud. Who do they forge to defraud? The Republican electors. The Republicans. They're sticking it to their own. Oh man! I mean, it's kind of like a reverse grift. I mean, I don't know. They prey on their own. I think they just prey on everybody.
Yeah,
that's
they
just
do.
kind of what they do.
That's what they do.
Additional charges. So now there's 10 additional charges, I guess, because there were 10 electors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as mentioned, Troopus was on the Vicki McKenna show, a conservative talker here in Wisconsin. And he said, there's not a single morning or a single night since early 2021 that I have not worried about this case, that I have not thought about it. They're coming after me. And every member of my family, they're coming after my law license. They're coming after my bankers. The civil case that he had to defend himself cost over $500,000. He claims they're trying to bankrupt him. Well, again, you engage. You shouldn't do that. Right. It's not laughable to me because I can go to jail for 6 years, and I don't doubt they would love to do that to make me the poster child. Well, that 6-year term was for one count.
Yeah, now we're looking at 66.
That's math on the radio,
That's math on the
Jess.
radio.
Well done. 66 years.
Indeed.
Now, and it's not $10,000.
No.
It's 11 times $10,000.
Yeah.
$110,000. Look at us.
That's a chunky bit of change.
That is a little bit. A little bit more of the reporting on the conclusion here at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Let's see who's writing this one. I got to give credit to our friends that are doing the real journalism here, Laura Schultz and Hope Carnop at jsonline.com. The conclusion here, we talked a little bit about it, but I want to put some clarity to it. He's been filing some motions recently to dismiss the Dane County case, talking about Troopus specifically. He's been filing motions to dismiss the case ahead of the hearing this week. I'll be hearing on Thursday. Of course, this came down today. His motions claiming the elector has met and cast their ballots only to preserve their legal options. In case the U.S. Supreme Court ruled Trump the winner of Wisconsin. He said no crime was committed and claimed the complaint should be dismissed. He contended that federal law should take precedent in the case and charges couldn't be filed in state court. He also argued that facts showing no crime was committed were left out of the original complaint, and so the case should be dismissed. And a final motion claiming the election crime prosecutions can only be filed by a DA and not the state attorney general, so the case should be dismissed.
So can I try to brainstorm my way through this? What it sounds like is that we had this group coordinated by 3 people, and they set out to rob a bank. And they got their masks, and they gave instructions to everyone, and they went in, and they said, hands up, give me all your money. But they failed. They couldn't actually rob the bank. Therefore, no crime was committed.
No, it's fine. It's right. It's right. We're prepping to rob the bank?
Right. But that in and of itself, as far as I understand it, is still a crime.
The conspiracy,
The conspiracy to do so.
The 10 electors have not been charged criminally related to the fake documents. However, last year, the group settled a lawsuit filed by the real Biden electors against them over their role in the scheme. As part of that settlement, the false electors acknowledged their actions were part of an attempt to overturn an election. So there we go, folks. All sorts of reasons Troopus thinks it should be dismissed, and we will see a hearing on Thursday. Again, 11 charges now of fraud against the fraudsters for trying to overturn the election and cast aside my vote, Jess's vote, and you can do whatever you want. Don't you dare throw out our votes. 855-752-4842. Let's get to our very patient callers. All right, Cindy from Appleton, you're up. Welcome. What do you got, Cindy?
Well, I'm tired of these Republicans pleading this ignorance of the law. They're not ignorant of the law. They just believe that the laws do not apply to them. This is the problem. And if this guy goes to prison for 66 years, Trump's just going to let him out anyway.
No. Au contraire, mon frere. Cindy, these are state charges. Donald Trump cannot pardon state charges. The president can only pardon federal charges. So this would be a state case, and they're not going to be able to get away.
So is this why was it Troupis who was saying that they should be charged federally?
Everyone wants to move this thing to federal court, right? They did the motions in Georgia. They did the same thing. I'm sure they did it in other places as well, because that's your hook. If Trump gets in, he can give you a pardon. 855-752-4842.
So much for states' rights, I guess.
Right. Jim from Brookfield. Welcome, Jim. What do you got for us?
But hello, Dom. It's good to hear your show on a getting colder Tuesday
Yeah,
in December. If anybody does deserve to go to, pay the consequences, go to prison, pay the fine, it is Mr. Troupis, poster child or not. My question is whether or not he's convicted, could he still be looked at or put under the microscope to lose his law license in the state of Wisconsin, to be disbarred, similar to our beloved former Chief or Supreme Court Justice, Mr. Gableman, has. And my other question is, when do you think this would come to trial?
Great questions, Jim. Thank you for calling. I think they're pushing for 2025, and they're still doing this, right? So they have a hearing coming up on Thursday, and I'm not sure if they're going to give dates out at that point, but this has been going on some time. So I would imagine we'd get some actual dates coming pretty soon. And of course, dropping 10 more charges shows that they're not walking away from this case.
Certainly.
And what was it? What do you have his other question? I forgot his other question.
Disbarment.
Disbarment. Oh, yes. Absolutely. He mentioned it when he was talking down the conservative radio that they're coming after his law license. As well they should. As well they should. Come on. It's a privilege to be able to walk into the court and file your documents. You're going to do so fraudulently? Maybe there should be some consequence to that. And come on. And the guy was a former judge. And I hate to begrudgingly give a little cover for those 10 fraudulent electors. I don't know how you didn't know better. Andrew Hitt, you're an attorney, for crying out loud. But it's not all of them were attorneys, And if you have a former judge and activists, they come out and they give you a big spiel and a good story, and you tell them how you want to participate in your very limited legal ways that you want to participate, and they go against that. Well, I mean, maybe you're misguided. Certainly, did you break the law? Probably not. But were you coerced into it? Were you lied to? Were you a victim of a fraud? Well, absolutely you were. And I would say anybody who believes that Donald Trump won the 2020 election, you are also a victim of a fraud. The big lie from Donald Trump. You had every opportunity, as anybody should, as anybody. If you're running for office, you don't like it, there's rules. We know the rules of the game when you get into it. And they tried, and they lost. And then they tried again, and they lost. And they kept on losing. They kept losing, but they didn't want to lose because a guy like Donald Trump, the narcissist that he is, can't possibly lose. How could that ever possibly happen? Well, it all must be because of the drop boxes, as Liz from Sun Prairie texts in. Troupis and his wife also voted via drop box. Then when Trump lost, he made himself look like a hero and offered to throw out his own vote. What a joke. They were going after the drop box votes. They were going after the absentee ballots. That was what that's what they're trying to do, is throw out all these votes in Dane County and Milwaukee County, right? That's what they were trying to do. And Troupis voted that very same way as Liz mentioned. And he is more than happy, as are all these mega cult members, to martyr their own vote to save their leader. Oh, Troupis, former conservative judge, orchestrator of fraud here in the state of Wisconsin. You voted via Dropbox, an absentee Dropbox? What? And now you're going to go to court and say that's somehow wrong and illegal and it shouldn't count? Your own vote?
Well, that gives him the moral standing so that he can say, look, I'm willing to.
Well, then why did you vote that way in the first place? Then
so that he could do that.
Oh no, because no one wanted to get COVID.
Right.
No one wanted COVID, man. Did we forget about the COVID? There was some COVID going on, if I recall.
Oh God, no! I've tried to black out those years.
Oh, come on, people. It is kind of blurry, but and there were difficult times. Come on, man, that was a terrible time. And it was exacerbated by this tomfoolery, fraudulent, illegal activity. And to take advantage of, come on, man, people voted absentee, put in drop box like Troupis did for a reason. They were concerned for their safety. And you're going to go out and take advantage of it? Yeah, a lot of people voted absentee. Well, why? Worldwide pandemic, maybe that had something to do with it. I remember Robin Voss getting on full-on PPE.
Yeah, well, healthcare providers couldn't get any.
Yeah, but he looked really good in it. Looked like Dexter.
Yeah, he did.
It was totally safe to come out. Come on. It was just, and for these things to happen, and for them to take, I'm going to take advantage of it. That's what they did. You take advantage of it. These are tough times. People were dying every single day.
It was so chaotic.
It was weird. It was, and then to have to deal with this kind of stuff, to have to deal with this big lie that Donald Trump threw out there way in the beginning, man, 12 months before his election. Mm-hmm. Maybe not 12, maybe 8. Beginning of the year. I mean, he knew what was coming. He knew that COVID was going to suck. He knew that was going to be bad for him politically. And again, I would argue that if he would have actually led, if you got out and said, "Hey, here's what the professionals are saying, the experts are saying, we got to do, mask up, work on this vaccine. In the meantime, do what you can and be safe. And I'm going to lead by example." He would have saved hundreds of thousands of lives, I would imagine, because I think some people, actually went to their deathbed still not believing that they actually had COVID.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Some of the reporting that I've read in that regard. So he could have saved some people's lives, and he may have gotten reelected.
Oh, absolutely. If he would have actually just led in those moments, I think that he would have won, especially if the Democrats had still, in this hypothetical situation, still fronted Joe Biden. Yeah, come on.
But we'll never know.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
And in the meantime, so here we are left, as usual, to pick up the pieces of just a disastrous effort, a fraudulent effort to throw out Dom and Jess' vote. Mm-hmm. And that's not okay. Of course, not just us, but hundreds of thousands of other folks, including Jim Trupis himself, who'd be more than happy to martyr his vote so his orange leader can win. What a freaking joke. I hope they make you a poster child. Mm-hmm. I don't know what else you do. I mean, if you try to overthrow an election, try to throw out our votes, and you just get away with it, I mean, I guess you become president. 855-752-4842. Let's get back to it. Mark from the SAC, you're up. Welcome, man. What do you got for us?
Yeah, thanks so much. And first, the good news today, I'm going to the 6-month protocol now for my scans and my CMV.
All right. Well done, sir. Congratulations.
So that's pretty cool. But getting back to this right here, that I just checked it out on the Wisconsin Elections Commission, that Dean Knutson actually resigned over this whole issue because he felt he couldn't represent Republicans anymore on the commission because they're all getting down on him because he wouldn't accept this nonsense that they're doing. And he shouldn't be representing anybody. Should be on there should be representing the citizens, not the particular party that they belong to. It's just that they're just happen to be a representative of that party. Now, I don't believe that they should be the fake electors should be let off the hook because they can read the Constitution. They can see that the only electors are the ones that are actually selected by the people. They knew at that point in time they were not the ones selected by the people because the Supreme Court had already come down and rendered their decision. And the fact ignorance of the law is no excuse, and even Bob Spindell, I mean, he's a member of the Wisconsin Election Commission. She should be fully immersed in what Wisconsin law says. So there's one fake elector that shouldn't get a well, I did believe this guy right here, and I don't know that any of them should be let off the hook. I mean, that ignorance of the law is no excuse, and that you should know darn well what you're doing, signing on, and saying that if there's questions about it, then don't sign.
And I totally get that, Mark, and I begrudgingly give him a little slack. And I don't know the nature of the engagement with Trupis, right? Was he actually their legal representative, or was I don't know how that all went down. But man, someone's got to be held accountable. Mark, 855-752-4842. We'll be right back. back to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75 It's our grown-up gift list text to win contest. This hour's keyword is Holly.
Holly.
So go download the Civic Media app, find your favorite radio station, use the text button at the bottom of your screen to send the keyword Holly for your chance to win the statewide contest, Holly. And that text line, hell, I get those too. I see lots of you folks playing the game. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for being a part and hanging out with us. Also, not just those texting the Holly, also those that have something to say about the topics as well. Let me throw this one out there for your consideration. Terry from Cross Plains. Dom, Andrew Hitt, we talked about him, attorney, is supposedly an election expert. This is a weasel who was on 60 Minutes Live that he didn't know that they were doing what they were doing was illegal as fake electors. Terry says they all knew the truth. I'm inclined to believe that, Terry. I am. I don't know how they didn't charge. They're not going to charge. They're going to at least go after the attorneys that apparently lied to them. I mean, if they believed it, maybe they listened to the advice of counsel and counsel was giving them fraudulent and wrong advice. I don't know. But it's hard for me to believe, Terry, to your point, that Andrew Hitt didn't know. And I saw that 60 Minutes interview, and I was like, come on, man. I was pulling an Earl. Like, come on, man. I don't buy that for a minute. You're way smarter than that. But that's, you got to play the game. You got to get out there and defend yourself vigorously, as, anybody would probably. But I can't believe that you didn't know. It's really, really hard for me to swallow that pill. Oh, you didn't know that, huh? Oh, you're a big shot attorney? Oh, election law, huh? Oh, you're in charge of the Republican state of... you didn't know, huh?
It's surprising that he's not one of the three who is receiving these extra 10 charges.
Well, the first three were the other ones, but he was one of the electors, right? So if you believe the reporting and what the point is of Attorney General Call is that they were lied to. They were fraudulently, they were the victims of fraud from Troopus and these other cats. But he had nothing to say on that one. So just keep his head down, just I'm only the head of the party and election expert and attorney. And
I didn't know.
I just did what Troopus told me to because that seemed reasonable. Oh, you mean you lost? You don't want to, somehow you can think maybe you could throw it to the states of fraudulent electors and put them, they did it back in the 1800s and in 1960. Oh, that's what we're going to try to do. Oh, didn't we just not get enough votes? No, let's do this instead. Okay, that sounds great. We'll go along with that. Come on, that's hard to believe. I mean, if someone walked up to me with paperwork like that, and say, "Hey, I know." Kamala Harris lost.
Good money to see.
But I got a great idea. All right, hang on. I'm going to work this one through. I got a great idea. This is totally going to work. It's not going to be problematic whatsoever. No, it's not fraud. And I remember when the fraudulent electors came forth from all these different states, and whoever the journalist was or the story reporting on it was, they lined them all up, and it was all the same language, all very similar. I mean, it's like come on, man. Come on. It's not even close. What? So maybe someone will eventually pay for trying to throw your vote and my vote, but maybe not. 855-752-4842. But I do commend Mr. Josh Call. Throw the book at him. Make him a poster boy. No one throws out our votes. Jeannie from Eau Claire, you are up. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Great show, guys. Agreed with everything that you said. And I'll tell you something. Better late than never. I was calling Josh Call's office every single week wondering what the devil they were going to do with a Green Bay sweep that originated in the great state of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
What an insult to all of us. And then Gableman, give me a break. He should have to pay back the money that he from our area here. And then that one guy that was already a lawyer, isn't that what his name was?
Troopus?
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Troopus was a former judge.
Well, I knew that one, but the other one, Andrew Hitt, is that his name?
Oh, Andrew Hitt. He was one of the electors. He was in charge of the Wisconsin GOP at the time.
Right, and he has a legal background. He can research laws. That guy needs to be investigated and lose his license for a while. This is so unbelievable, and anybody involved in this should not be allowed to run for election in the state of Wisconsin ever or be on any decision-making boards, because this is like, whoa, on the state of Wisconsin and all the money it cost us, all the chaos it caused.
Yeah.
And all the people that had to work overtime recounting all the votes and being, targeted with negativity and those type of things. So great job, guys. Thanks for reporting on us. You made my year. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
for listening, Jeannie. You are very welcome. We appreciate it. 855-752-4842. Catherine from Madison texts in. So, Dom, tell me again why it took Josh Call this long to charge these electoral college criminals. Well, the first charges were some time ago. These are additional charges.
Yeah.
And why did it take so long, Catherine? The gears of justice turn slowly.
Yeah.
It is frustrating. I would have liked to see some more action on this because, again, it's not just fraud. It's fraud with the intent to overthrow an election, to throw out my vote, Catherine, to throw out your vote, throw out Jess's vote. That's just unforgivable. And anyone who goes along in that, if you weren't concerned about, hey, is this legal? Is this illegal? Is this going to disenfranchise voters? And Jim Troopers puts his hand up. Absolutely. I voted via Dropbox absentee as well. To hell with it. Throw it out. But throw out my vote. Maybe Trump will win. Folks, come back with us. Next segment, 855-752-4842. We'll follow up on the immigration and Trump's threats here in Wisconsin.
Broadcasting across the state of Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and around the world on the Civic Media app. This is the Dom Salvia Show. And now, here's your host, Dom Salvia.
And welcome to the Dom Salvia Show. Happy days to us all. Thank you for hanging out with us here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Got Jess PS on the board and on the horn, doing the hard work. Thank you, Jess. Some topics we want to get to in this hour. Our continuing conversation regarding immigration here in the state of Wisconsin. And also in the next half hour, I want to get to the cost of health care. Of course, is very unfortunate and wrong. I'm going to be very clear for all those megas out there thinking I'm encouraging that. Murder of this healthcare executive has brought to light, some of the angst that folks have about our healthcare system in this country. I think Mother Jones had a nice piece on that. Some of the statistics, I think, are really... It's shocking.
Absolutely.
I guess it's all right there. We all know it if you're involved in the healthcare system. Most people are one way or another. You're either paying premiums or you're paying the hospital bills or both. But what is the cause? What is the source of that angst? We'll get there as well. But starting with the immigration, I saw the piece here over at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Maya Pandy reporting Trump's pledge to end birthright citizenship, including in Wisconsin. Is that possible? Well, I don't think so, but let's hear. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a constitutional thing, but let's jump into it. And of course, folks, you can jump in with us as well. 855-752-4842. Trump, who has pledged sweeping immigration changes from day one in his second term, reiterated his desire to halt birthright citizenship this week. But actually delivering on the campaign promise will be an uphill legal battle, experts say. In the interview with NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday, we played lots of that sound for you yesterday. Trump said he would work toward a plan to carve out citizenship for Dreamers or people in the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. That's the DACA program. The latest on Trump's immigration policy promises and how it would affect Wisconsinites. So let's define it as our journalist does. Birthright citizenship is part of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It was ratified in 1868 in the aftermath of the Civil War to grant citizenship to black people in the United States. Now, Section 1 of the amendment states that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. In other words, any person born in the United States has the right to citizenship, regardless of whether their parents are citizens, though it's worth noting that the amendment wasn't all-encompassing when it was first passed again in 1868. Well, why is that? Because Native Americans did not gain the right to birthright citizenship until 1924.
Oh, boy.
What? And I read this today. Like, wait, what? The indigenous people that lived here before the Europeans and everyone else came over here and stole everything, killed everybody. They didn't get birthright citizenship.
Inhabiting the land for over 10,000 years. But
1924, happy 100th year anniversary for indigenous Native Americans to your birthright citizenship. I wonder, is Trump going to go after that too?
Well, he might.
I mean, if you go after birthright citizenship, it affects everyone who was right. So
it affects everyone. So what are going to be his qualifications in order to be a citizen?
Well, you gotta give him money, of course. The reporting goes on. As of 2019, more than 5.5 million children were living in the United States with at least one parent who had entered the country illegally, according to PBS. That equates to about 7% of the U.S. population. Now, here's what Trump said. He called birthright citizenship ridiculous. He said, we have to end it. Now, last year, in his Agenda 47 policy platform, Trump announced he would sign an executive order on day one directing federal agencies to no longer grant automatic U.S. citizenship to the children of immigrants who came to the country illegally. Really? No. Instead, his executive order would direct... he said his executive order would direct federal agencies to, quote, require that at least one parent be a U.S. citizen for lawful permanent resident or lawful permanent resident for their future children to become automatic U.S. citizen, the policy plan states. Now, Trump pledged to exact similar measures during his first term, but never took action.
Well, that tracks.
Just gonna make an executive order on citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, that's going to get challenged. Come on, man. That's not going to happen. Though there is technically a path to ending birthright citizenship, legal experts agree it would be very difficult for Trump to do so. First, any executive order he issues will almost certainly face immediate legal challenges for violating the Constitution.
Right.
Ah,
That pesky little document.
didn't he, swear an oath to uphold that thing?
He also said that he was, up for suspending it.
Oh,
so
that's right. I mean, only parts
only
of
parts
it.
of it.
Parts that he
Parts,
doesn't like.
right.
Yes. Second, to actually end the policy, Trump would need to amend the Constitution itself. A constitutional amendment requires a 2/3 vote in the House and Senate, or a request for convention by 2/3 of the states. Well, that's not some of these Republicans are trying to get that as well. Beyond that, they need ratification by 3/4 of the state legislatures, which the measure is extremely unlikely to achieve. Now, what other Wisconsin politicians, what have they said about it? Well, Evers, our governor here in the state of Wisconsin, and Senator Tammy Baldwin said they oppose ending birthright citizenship since 2018 when Trump first proposed the policy change. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Ron Johnson, wow, what do you think Ron had to say? I said during a U.S. Senate hearing last month that he thinks the country ought to do away with birthright citizenship, according to the Heartland Signal, the quote they have here on the X. Personally, I think we ought to do away with birthright citizenship. Personally, I think we ought to do that. Despite his hardline immigration platform, Trump did say he would, quote, work with the Democrats on a plan for DACA recipients. Now, DACA is an Obama-era program that protects people who came to the U.S. as children from deportation and grants them work permits. About 530,000 young adults, who are often called dreamers, are part of that program. Now, Trump ended DACA in his first term, but the U.S. Supreme Court later overturned the decision. His reelection left many dreamers, including those here in Wisconsin, feeling uncertain about their future and planning for the deportation of their family members or the end of their work permits. You can't have those work permits. However, Trump said on Sunday, quote, we have to do something about the dreamers because these are people that have been brought here at a very young age, and many of these are middle-aged people now. Yeah, and they had kids. And their kids are U.S. citizens.
Well, they are now.
They are now, but, if Trump had his way, and he can't go undo that, by the way. My impression of once you're a U.S. citizen, you're a U.S. citizen. I'm not going to go back and retroactively say, okay, well, if you're...
I mean, we certainly hope.
Well, you could try. But that ain't happening. Trump went on to say that some of them are no longer young people, and in many cases, they've become successful. They get great jobs. In some cases, they have small businesses. Some cases may have large businesses. We're going to have to do something with them. They might have small businesses. They may have large businesses. Well, obviously, he forgot medium businesses. I mean, come on, man.
Come on.
He loves his words.
The best words.
the best words. So, ending birthright citizenship, is that something that we should be focusing on? Is that a concern for anybody out there? 855-752-4842. Is this a policy item that you think we're lacking? This is problematic? I mean, don't we need people in this country?
Last I checked, countries work best when they have people.
Otherwise, it's just like land. With no country.
Yeah.
No, land with no people is just land. Birth rates not keeping up, right? We got a lot of boomers retiring. That's gonna be a lot of the top end. Start paying off those Social Security. Of course, we could reduce all that as well to cut the debt. Oh, they got a plan for that as well. But this is not something I think is a priority. People are born here. They're citizens. That's how it is. That's how it's been since 1868, unless you're indigenous to this country. Then in 1924, that's just how it is. And I don't know what problem is Donald Trump and the MAGAs and those that would endorse ending birthright citizenship. What problem does that address exactly? 855-752-4842. And then this on the heels of that, and I love this one. And thank you, Jess, for bringing this to my attention. Over at The Nation, here's an idea, folks. President Biden should issue blanket pardon of undocumented immigrants. Wait, what?
Use that pardon power, baby.
This is what I'm saying. Protecting Trump's enemies from prosecution just reinforces the idea of politics as retribution. Instead, Democrats should be defending his most vulnerable targets. Chris Lehman over at The Nation reporting. Folks, you can jump in on this as well. 855-752-4842. The pardon phase of a lame duck presidency is never a pretty thing. Bill Clinton extended criminal pardons to big-ticket donors such as Mark Rich and political allies such as Susan McDougal, Mel Reynolds, and Dan Rostenkowski, as well as his brother Roger. God, I remember most of that. George W. Bush was far stingier in his exercise of the pardon power, but still maximized its political returns with a pardon for former GOP Representative Randy Duke Cunningham and a commuted sentence for former Dick Cheney aide Louis Scooter Libby. Trump's first term yielded a bonanza. A bonanza.
What a word.
A plethora, a cornucopia of pardons for his cronies and enablers, including, well, here's some blast from the past. Roger Stone, he's still around.
He's still around.
Michael Flynn, Dinesh D'Souza, and Scooter Libby for good measure. What, a guy get pardoned twice?
Pardoned
What
twice.
what kind of world's you living in where you get 2 presidential pardons? I mean, what is going on here, man? Trump's flagrantly self-dealing use of executive clemency has indeed created a new category of jail emptying for legal analysts, the henchman pardon. Ooh, the henchman pardon. In the waning days of the Biden presidency, the pardoning power is again being stretched to potentially take in a group that might be called imaginary henchmen. Lawmakers and officials deemed enemies of the MAGA movement, such as Public Health Administrator Anthony Fauci, Adam Schiff, the newly elected senator who chaired Trump's first impeachment in the House, former Joint Chiefs Chair Mark Milley, and erstwhile never-Trump GOP House Representative Liz Cheney. I think Dick might have a problem if they come after Liz. I'm just saying. You're going to put Darth Vader's daughter in jail, dude? For what? and for the record, folks, both Cheney and I think it was Adam Kinzinger are very, very, are pushing back very earnestly against these threats from the incoming president. And Liz Cheney. And this comes in the wake of Biden's decision to pardon his son Hunter on gun and tax charges after pledging he'd do no such thing. This clutch of preemptive pardons is also a response to Trump's clear mission to inflict legal vengeance on his detractors during his second term. His nominee to head the FBI, Kash Patel, has repeatedly promised to round up Trump critics for legal retribution, and his Justice Department nominee, Pam Bondi, is another road-tested, if less publicly minded, Trump lackey. The threat of legal harassment from such figures is far from idle. Yet the use of preemptive pardons to diffuse it is both too passive in conception and too narrow in focus. Pardons, after all, traditionally cover people who've been convicted of crimes, wrongfully or otherwise. Well, we'll see if we can come up with some other ideas for that pardon. Join us on the lines 855-752-4842.
Hello tomorrow, and goodbye to yesterday. We've been waiting for this moment, and we still don't know what to say. We may never find the answers or know the reason why we both decided we should say goodbye.
Welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75-CIVIC. Lame duck President Biden. Should he issue a blanket pardon of undocumented immigrants? Ooh, I like this idea. TheNation.com, Chris Lehman reporting. Folks, we'll get to you briefly and shortly, 855-752-4842. Talking about the pardons, let's get back to it. In the body of the piece, pardons traditionally cover people who've been convicted of crimes, wrongfully or otherwise, and using pardons to shield people raising legitimate issues and criticism legally in the service of the public weal abets rather than arrests the criminalization of politics that all sides of our corrupt system claim to abhor. It also affords no comfort to less high-profile and politically connected foes of Trumpism who can't leverage their proximity to Biden into a shield against future prosecution. As with the earlier Trump and Clinton pardons, these extensions of clemency would reinforce the impression that mercy from the Oval Office only applies to the American power elite. So let me float a modest proposal. Please
I love
do.
those.
Modest proposal. To redeem the use of the pardon power, Biden should disperse it far and wide. One obvious use of it, which would yield robust moral and political benefits, would be to grant a preemptive pardon to undocumented and documented immigrants now facing the prospect of indiscriminate mass deportation when Trump takes office next month. People who entered the country illegally within the last 20 years who are currently awaiting an asylum decision or are under the age of 12. Special care should be taken to include the legal recipients of temporary protected status, such as the Haitian community in Springfield, Ohio, relentlessly demonized by the Trump campaign. Trump is bound to try to abolish the TPS program as he moves forward on mass deportations. If Democrats are serious about confronting advancing MAGA fascism, this would be an effective way to throw up major obstacles to its enforcement at the outset. I like it. Now, as the author continues, the strategy could prove legally fruitless over the long haul, particularly as Trump can count on a megafied federal court system to shore up his phony jury-rigged argument that an immigrant invasion warrants expansive emergency war power measures from the executive. But an imminent plan to legally target and repatriate a non-white population based on antisocial and violent traits imputed to them on the basis of national origin is indeed a dramatic and inestimably damaging lurch toward fascism. And so a correspondingly urgent and expansive use of executive power to thwart it is a first-order political exigency. Jeez.
You got it. You got there.
That's especially true for an opposition party that's frequently invoked the threat of mega authoritarian rule to democracy and the rule of law. Democrats disastrously sat on their hands when the first Trump White House established its more modest but equally bogus agency to combat the non-existent wave of violent immigrant crime. Indeed, to its shame, the Biden White House left it intact after rescinding the executive order that created it. A mass pardon for immigrants imperiled by this horrific escalation of Trump's xenophobic predations would mark a long overdue clean break with the Democrats' craven and unimaginative collaboration with draconian border policies designed to stoke unfounded moral panics and the political revenge fantasies on the right, as well as supplying a bulwark of support for tax-paying workers in this country menaced by brown shirt raids dispatched from Washington. That's the moral case for a mass preemptive pardon for immigrants. The political one is less urgent, but equally compelling for a Democratic Party that's driven itself into the electoral wilderness without a compass. The Harris-led party never met the electorate with a clear and decisive sense of purpose or identity, professing to defend democracy and the interests of working people at the same time that it let major donors set its economic agenda and romanced a never-significant cohort of never-Trump GOP supporters. Its message on immigration was especially lackluster and self-undermining as Harris vowed to sign the brutal and regressive Republican border overhaul that Trump sabotaged in order to continue campaigning. Of course he did, on immigration moral panics. Meanwhile, Biden has scarcely done anything to address the plight of immigrants during his final days in office. A bold bid to upend the Trump White House mass deportation agenda out of the gate would send an unambiguous message that Democrats will go to great lengths to prevent the further spread of fascist rule and xenophobic lies from a cynical and morally bankrupt GOP. It would create much the same galvanizing effect on the anti-Trump opposition sparked by the brigades of protesters and legal supporters who sought to block the Muslim ban in the early days of Trump's first term. Again, the legal grounds for a mass immigrant pardon could be shaky. Since unlawful presence, quote unquote, is a civil offense, a presidential pardon, which only applies to criminal ones, probably wouldn't override the deportation offense in court. Still, some immigration lawyers suggest that there is, in fact, a solid case for pardons. Here's a quote. There is actually no reason at all that the broad constitutional provision that allows the president to pardon, quote, offenses against the United States, unquote, could not include civil violations of the Immigration and Naturalization Acts, said Boston immigration attorney Matt Cameron, who's made the argument for pardons on his podcast Opening Arguments. Quote, it has never been used that way, but I agree it should be. And here's an NYU Law Review article that makes a comparable case, I think does so convincingly. Cameron also notes that mass pardon could also furnish immigrants a sturdy path to citizenship. Quote, there's also a major side benefit to the blanket pardon, which non-attorneys almost wouldn't think of. Penalties for periods of unlawful presence would not be applied, which would immediately help every undocumented person who is married to a U.S. citizen who would otherwise either have to wait outside the U.S. for 10 years to go through the extremely lengthy and uncertain hardship waiver process. This is what Biden's Keeping Families Together program, recently killed by a Texas federal judge, was trying to do. So maybe a delay tactic, maybe some good benefit come out of it. Maybe it shows some support for those folks that are here, who were brought here as kids. There's lots to do this, to go to review with this. And if you're going to consider that these pardons, as specified in this article, for, your inner circle, your buddies, your well-connected folks, what about everybody else? A lot of these folks, they're going to be under the thumb of Donald Trump, and I still want to see how that process is going to work out. Sheriffs, Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, name your group. Folks, come back with us, 855-752-4842. I say do it, Biden. Blanket pardon for all of them. Come back with us. Welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show, 855-752-4842, 855-75 Civic. It's a phone line. It is a text line. Some of you folks jumping on the texters here. John, referring to Ron Johnson, our senator from the great state of Wisconsin. What did he say? Ron Johnson said he would only run for one term. Sure has been a long one. I just wish he did something for Wisconsin other than embarrassing us. Oh, John. Rojo. We used to have that guy on the show all the time back in the day. And he's, ever since the insurrection, he hasn't been allowed here. I haven't asked. I'm not gonna. Linda says his problem should be addressed only if his wife were deported first. She came in under fake documents. Linda from Middleton referring to what, Trump's current wife?
Current.
The third, number three?
Number three.
Number three. Number three, baby mama. Yeah, she got some interesting, like some past, let's call it,
But Dom.
What?
She's white.
Oh, is she though?
Is she? Well.
Wah, wah.
Wow.
Annie from Watertown, no problem that citizens came from neighbor and ally Mexico have a baby, so what? But the booming business of Chinese citizens paying the fee and the business provided all they needed to come here, have an American citizen baby and return to China. Yeah, there's lots of folks, I don't know, using the system, engaging this. I mean, this is how we have it. This is the law. I mean, I know some folks don't like that. I have no problem with it. It's been that way all this time, and we've made it this far. We've made it to be this great again, to elect Donald Trump twice. Maybe we should get rid of it. No, I'm just kidding. It's been in our Constitution since 1868, finally applicable to the indigenous native population in 1924, and they want to undo it. But, Annie, to your point, yes, there is a business involved in that, certainly. And if you have the ability to do so, right? If you have the money, if you're not, like, walking, in a caravan up from South or Central America, if you got the resource, you can just jump on a plane, land in the town, have that baby, and fly back. Nice and easy. No one talks about that, but it's only those caravans of people coming in and stealing your jobs, which, of course, is not the case. And I think that the point that the Nation is making, the author here from the Nation, the basis for this angst. And when's the last time you heard about the people eating the pets in Springfield, Ohio? You haven't heard that, huh? No. Apparently, yeah. Inflation. Trump said inflation is not as bad as it. I mean,
the economy's great now because Trump got elected. So look at how fast he was able to turn that around.
Just
Didn't
amazing.
even have to get in office.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
All those issues are real and they're trumped up.
Pun intended.
Indeed. 855-752-4842. A couple more from the text line. I like the gal who's with Dom. She adds to the show, says Gary from Madison. Yeah.
Thanks.
That's Jess P.S., Gary. Yeah, she's awesome. Thank you, Jess. And thank you, Gary. And I think that's about it. Let's see. So do all Trump's children lose their citizenship? John wonders from West Dallas.
Well, how else are they going to be determined to be citizens?
His youngest, Barron, right? He's anchor baby?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Is that what they're all against? That's the term, right?
That's the term, anchor baby.
The terrible term. We're not supposed to use that term. But if you're going to rip on the Republicans who use that term, that's what Barron is, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just want to be clear that we're on the same page about all that. So, yes, what do we got here? 855-752-4842. And again, using the pardon against a civil offense. That's one of the concerns that the author has here. But maybe it could include civil violations of the Immigration and Naturalization Act. I guess we wouldn't know until we try.
Right.
And if we're going to be part of pushing the limits of what the norms have been, shouldn't we do it to the benefit of the most people that could possibly help?
Well, I mean, the norms have been pushed so far in the anti-humanist direction. Why don't we try doing something that helps people for a change?
I mean, balance
just to see how it feels.
Just to see. And I think it could be narrowed down. Certainly, if you have hardcore criminal types. They call them. Heard Foxy don't call it news recently. Oh, we're gonna go after the gangbangers first. And these guys talk about gang banging first. Listen, folks that are engaged in that kind of hardcore criminal activity, they're already being focused on it and being shipped out first. Those and there are some folks who have been ordered by our courts to be deported and have. Now, hell, man, Obama deported like 5 million people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Obama, if the numbers are right, folks, you can Google it. It's not broke. Obama deported more people than Trump did.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, and that wasn't great for the Dems. So yeah, it's an issue. Is it an issue to go now and try to redo the Constitution? Kind of an issue? Absolutely not. And lots of folks are here because their parents brought them here. Lots of folks are here because they're seeking asylum because it's dangerous in their home countries. Part of which, again, I think we need to recognize to some degree the legacy, call it legacy imperialism, the legacy foreign policy, the legacy of taking the resources and using the resources of our neighbors to the south. There's a history there. These things just didn't happen yesterday. And I think, one of the things that the rip on Kamala Harris from the Republicans, the misguided criticism, was that she was the border czar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not the case. I mean, it's not down there, with a rifle, standing guard. Her assignment, I believe, was also the assignment of Vice President Mike Pence. Get to the core. What are the core issues? What are the core problems that we need to deal with? Again, I think those things can be dealt with in diplomatic terms, but there's also obviously lots of pressures, lots of corporate pressure. I mean, money, baby. Let's just talk about it what it is. That's what it comes down to. And for hundreds of years, if you go down and let's just paraphrase and call it pilfering the resources of everyone around us every time. And if they don't like it, you put in a dictator, or you back the dictator. So as a democratic country supporting authoritarian dictators to the benefit, quote unquote, of our country, well, that's great for us. Not so great for those folks who may have wanted a democracy, and we backed a dictator because the dictator will do what we want them to do. That's
sure.
Right. That's probably somewhat bad.
I should think so.
Is there a dichotomy? I mean, what the proper term is there? Hypocritical, maybe?
Yeah.
But those things...
And they have consequences.
They certainly do.
They have consequences that roll out over the course of generations.
Right.
So, yeah, maybe we collectively got a small benefit for a little bit. How's that helping now?
855-752-4842. Jim from Appleton. Caravan. What caravan? There has never been in all decades that regressives have been claiming them. Not one. The caravans.
But it sells so well,
Doesn't it,
Jim.
though? Doesn't it?
Because it's
Caravans.
all scary.
Yeah, people want to come here. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Generally, it's a place where the rule of law, happens and is followed. Generally, that's the case.
Generally, if not, though, you can be elected president.
Generally, you can come here and not be forced to show your papers. There's a sense of freedom and liberty, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness.
Hey, you've got those tattooed on you.
You know what I'm saying? I am the pursuit. We all have that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the point. That's the point. We the people get to decide. And right now, we the people, the president is Joe Biden. And Joe Biden should absolutely push the limits on this and to embrace those that are already here with us, that are already our neighbors that are working here. Let's get past it all. You kidding me? Let's pardon everyone, preemptively pardon. We'll push those limits. Let's get some in the meantime.
Start with a nice, fresh, clean slate,
well,
huh?
And do we have to worry about work permits then as well? I mean, we can get people on the system. We can get them actual Social Security numbers where they can actually, go to work. And if they pay it in the system, they might get some back. Because right now they don't.
No.
Right now they don't. Maybe. Of course, if this were to happen, perhaps wages would increase. I don't know. Is it inflationary? I don't know. 855-752-4842. It is an interesting concept to consider. And again, to your point, Jess, we need a little more humanism here, man.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Push back against it. And it would send, I think, a loud message, not only to our migrant friends here, but around the world, that we stand up for this. We stand up for democracy. We stand up for the rule of law. Because we can fix this legislatively, but you don't want to do that. And as the nation points out, they weren't a big fan of that law that came out of the Senate. Now, it was something maybe not better than nothing. I don't know. I had less of a reaction to it because we do need some solutions, certainly. But the work permit issue, if people want to come here to work,
right?
Why
this
would
should be such a simple matter to legislate and then have a clear path forward where we can all benefit.
I mean, it's basic governance, in my opinion. I'm sorry, immigration is basic
you
governance.
want to come in and you want to work?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, get in that line. You want to come in and play? That's fine too. Just bring the money.
Yeah.
But why don't we want to be that shining light on the hill? Isn't that what we want people? Of course, people want to come here, and these folks are not tapping in the system. You know who's breaking the system are the billionaires. You know what I'm saying? If you're coming in as a undocumented migrant, and you're going to work when filling out a fraudulent or wrong or incorrect, inaccurate I-9, and you're working. I mean, you're working.
You're working to build the system, not break it.
And you're contributing to something you will never get back. Those folks aren't getting unemployment. Those folks aren't getting Social Security or Medicare. That's just not happening. 855-752-4842. I also, the Mother Jones article, was that the one about the Doge Bros? The Doge Bros? We'll get to the Doge Bros. You want to save some money in this country? There's some ideas out there. Hey, let's go, Paul. We'll get you on the air right now. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Dom. Hey, I'll make this quick or try to. We have something in common. We both had friends that parents own farms, and I think I spent 3 or 4 years working there in the summer. It was the dairy farm like you did, and it didn't take me long to figure out this thing goes on 7 days a week, sometimes all times of the day and night, and I'm down with your program here because we're definitely going to need people to help these dairy farmers out. At least that's my experience in a dairy farm. And I don't know, I suppose there's people that'll still do it, but I knew that's not what I wanted to do with my life. I'll tell you that much because, like I said, it never ends. So, and if you do this, in the end, it saves a lot of money. We get to keep a lot of these workers as long as they can do this like in an orderly fashion, I guess. It sounds better than trying to round all these people up. And
well,
I don't know
what I'm saying, man. And Paulie, thanks for the call, man. Thanks for listening. Yeah, it sounds a whole lot better than rounding people up. How about? Hey, you're here. Here's your Joe Biden pardon. Welcome to the party, pal. Get your stuff out. Sign up the docs. Get your social. Get working. You're now officially one of us. You've been here working here anyway. Yeah, I'm down with this, and I think we should absolutely test the system, especially for the benefit of humanism, to the advancement of humanism. 855-752-4842. I know we don't have a lot of time in this left in the segment, but I do want to throw out the next topic briefly that we'll get to, and of course we'll get to your calls as well. Here's trillions in federal waste that the Doge Bros could actually target. Because what's more wasteful than giant tax breaks for people who don't need them? ? Michael Mechanic. Is that Mike and the Mechanics? Michael Mechanic over at the Mother Jones. Well, I know when he's talking about those who need and those that don't need, I'm not a big fan of that kind of conversation. I mean, no one wants to pay taxes. But there are wasteful giant tax breaks that perhaps they would, I'm going to say they don't need them. Maybe they wouldn't miss it as much as some of us would. Maybe that's it. Come back with us. We'll get your calls and a little bit of the top lines of what those items might be. 855-752-4842. You're listening to the Dom Salvia Show on the Civic Radio Network.
Don't wanna wait for tomorrow. I'm gonna say it today. I'm sick of making excuses. I'm sick of being afraid. When all we have is a moment with so much left to say. Don't wanna wait for tomorrow. I'm gonna say it today.
And welcome back to the Dom Salvia Show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, hit us up on the lines right now. Talk or text 855-752-4842. Mother Jones got some great ideas for the Doge Bros.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that'd be what? Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and Musk. The Doge Bros on what they could actually target. But let's get to some callers first and some texters. Callers always take priority. Tim from Wales, you are up. Welcome, Tim. What do you got for us?
Hey, Canada has done work visas for years. If you want to apply for a job and the work company will sponsor you, you get a work visa. So I think one easy way we could step in right away is anybody that's working can get a visa right away.
Right, Tim. I mean, here's a solution to the problem that's already in use. Why isn't that being done, Tim? I mean, how come we're not using very practical solutions to an obvious problem?
Exactly. I mean, you can do a tiered one. All those people automatically get visas. They're working here. They're productive citizens. They're, spending money. They're making money. They're in the economy. It's the other people that, we have to work as a civilization on how to help the people where you have language barriers and different things like that on how to help them become citizens.
Yeah, Tim. I mean, this isn't this isn't reinventing the wheel, right? We have solutions that we can enact, and there's not one solution for everything, right? So you got some worker folks that, that's an easier one perhaps than the mother or the father of an elderly perhaps of those brought those kids in, the dreamers now that are maybe middle aged and and maybe they have language barriers, but you're going to send them. They've been here 40 years. Where you're going to send them to. There should be a process for them as well. I mean, not just folks that work, and those are the obvious ones. And folks that are breaking the law should be deported. I mean, certainly, if you're in this, and that's the thing, and what this environment creates, not just the ability for politicians to use it as a club, which they continue to do, but it does. It creates opportunity for crime. It creates opportunity for not going to call it blackmail, but strong arming. Because folks don't want to be part and get involved into the system. So if you're in that situation as an undocumented migrant and you're working and someone stiffs you on the pay, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
What recourse do you have?
Back in the day, when they go to the mafia because all the government was all corrupt, and you want to get something, you go to
back in the day when the government was corrupt.
Well, you talk about the old Sicilian. I mean, come on, over the centuries, everyone had a piece of Sicily back in the day, So they had to rely on their own, on themselves to get through. And if you couldn't rely on call it a justice system, well, maybe you do your own justice.
Well, we've seen some of that.
Well, this is unfortunately so. 855-752-4842. All right. Here's trillions in federal waste the Doge Bros could actually target.
Let's hear it.
Michael Mechanic, not Mike and the Mechanics, is laying a few out there for us. We'll just hit some of the top lines. Here's one. This would save, according to this article at motherjones.com, $2.5 trillion. Sounds like a lot of money, right? Tax breaks for private retirement plans. Some Republican lawmakers are eyeing Social Security reductions to cover the cost of extending the tax cuts for the wealthy that Trump signed into law in December 2017. But if the goal is to eliminate waste, they're barking up the wrong tree. The SSA estimates it will disperse about $110 billion more in benefits this year than it receives from the taxes that are deducted from our paychecks to fund the program. And that's a fair sum, but the government spends nearly, get this, 4 times as much subsidizing private retirement savings, whose benefits flow disproportionately to the affluent.
Wow.
The U.S. government, and by extension the states, offer tax breaks for contributions to these investment accounts and on the stock profits that accrue in those accounts over the years, benefits that add up to just under $2.5 trillion over 5 years. But Unlike Social Security, private retirement plans are far from universal. Participation varies widely by income.
Imagine that.
Yeah, isn't it always the case, right? According to the Federal Reserve Board's latest, which is 2022 survey of consumer finances, only 41% of families in the lower half of the income spectrum had a private retirement account, whereas 96% of families in the top earning 10% have one or more. And among the participating families, average savings from the lower income half was just under $55,000 versus over $900,000 in the top 10%. Now, encouraging people to save is laudable. The wasteful part is that there's no ceiling. In fact, JCT reported that more than 28,000 Americans had IRAs, these are individual retirement account balances exceeding $5 million, and nearly 500 had holdings of more than $25 million. Peter Thiel, using dubious tactics, even managed to accumulate more than $5 billion in a Roth IRA, a type of account intended for middle-class savers. And that's just IRAs, which a person can own alongside other pensions and 401k type accounts. Yeah, here's a fix. Once a person amasses a total of $2 million in their combined retirement accounts, you remove them from the federal teat. If they need more, they can save without the government's help. Here's an idea.
Mm-hmm.
The exclusion of capital gains at death, $309 billion. That's some money as well. Tax deductions for charitable gifts, $379 billion. Huh? Reduced rates on dividends and long-term capital gains, $1.2 trillion. Home mortgage interest deductions. Well, hang on now. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, folks, thank you so much for listening to the Dom Salvia Show. Thank you to our overtime guest, Maggie Dawn. Check her out Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network. Thank you, Jess PS, for all your hard work. Thank you to our audience. And stick around. Nightlight with Pete Schwab is coming up next. Have a wonderful evening. We'll be back tomorrow.
Get up, get up,